Hello survivors, welcome to a brand new Soulstone survivor video. Today we're going to be talking all about minions, how they work, the different types of minions, and everything else about them. Now, let's start off with the type of minions. There are three types of different minions. We get static minions, we get long-lasting minions, or like the forever minions, and then we get the exploding minions like the Playz and the bunnies. Now, the difference between each minion is going to be the way that they interact with certain abilities or different passives. For instance, the bunnies or the Playz, what happens is they explode when they're killed. How this works as well is if you resummon the units and you are at the max unit cast, so let's say we've only got units per cast, the maximum is 17 for our Playz right now. If we have 17 Playz out in the field and we resummon another 5 of the ones on the field are going to automatically explode or die and therefore deal whatever it is that they're supposed to when they die. So that's one way of looking at it. In that respect, if you build a lot of area of effect, then the cooldown reduction doesn't matter too much, because even when they're exploding, as long as the area is large enough to kill things that are on the screen around you, you can have a really low cooldown. But because they explode, you don't often want a lot of cooldown reduction, because these specific minions are going to land up dying near enemies and exploding, and if you're summoning them with a 0.2 second cooldown, they're going to explode at your feet and therefore not hit a lot of enemies, unless you're standing right on top of the boss or the enemy that you want them to hit, or unless you've got screen wide AoE, so you're going to have to invest in one or the other kind of thing with them. So that's how those ones works. Next, we've got your standard minions. They just run around attacking enemies. What happens is if you resummon them, or if the units per cast reaches the maximum amount, every time they hit their cooldown reduction, then those units are just going to be healed. So what happens is all the units are out. We've got 7 dogs out. As soon as we reach the 13.4 second cooldown, the next 2 dogs that are summoned is actually 2 dogs that are going to get healed while they are alive on the battlefield. So that's how those minions work. Next, we've got the static minions. These guys, what happens is while they are out, they will be attacking. They cannot move their positioning. They are static, and after their cooldown is redone, so after the 3.6 seconds, they are going to not increase their duration, but they are going to be resummoned wherever you are. So they kind of get resummoned near you, and whatever the case may be, they just keep getting resummoned. So they don't get healed like the other summons, and they don't, get killed or explode or have a death effect like the exploding minions. So each minion has different effects. It also brings about a whole bunch of other things like, okay, well, what about cast frequency? How does that affect the minions? How do negative effects affect the minions, and things like that? So with negative effects, as long as you have or you keep getting negative effect options like a poison on hit, so all of your attacks may now apply poison. Things like those also apply to your minions. So you will notice that my minions are applying doom, they are applying poison, they will be applying slow as well. Not only because they do actually apply poison, the Playz, but you can notice even if there isn't a Playz around, the Cross Totem as well as the Putrid Hounds themselves will be proccing poison on enemies, or at least have a chance to proc poison on the enemies. We've already got Doom. You can see a lot of Doom being procced, even though we don't have any Doom on any of our minions, and we don't have any other skills that deal damage besides for Putrefy, which only works on minions. So that's the thing. So it says causes all allies in a large area to cause the Putrefy, just so you understand how that works. So if I gain this, it also applies to my minions. Now that also brings about the other things. What about critical hit chance? What about area of effect? All of these things also apply to the minions. Multicast chance, critical hit chance, cast frequency, damage upgrades, any single thing that you add to your character's stat sheet is going to affect your minions as well. Anything that you apply with regards to runes, as long as it's something like Like this over here, because you gain more critical strike chance, it affects your minions. This over here, because you get more critical damage, it affects your minions. They also get the increased critical damage, cast frequency, area of effect, multicast chance, armor, block, damage reduction. All of these things affect your minions in the same way that they are going to affect your character. The best thing to think about is that your minions are an extension of yourself. So your movement speed, your damage, any stat is going to affect your minions as well. So in case you're ever wondering about that, that's how it works. Now this also brings in an important an important lesson, we'll call it that. Now, because you get different types of minions, you don't necessarily want a certain stat on those minions. So a good example is going to be cast frequency. Sometimes you don't want to always respawn your frost totems constantly over and over again. They might be attacking a boss, you might be running away or carting the boss to try and survive, and because they are already attacking the boss, you land up with a very low cooldown reduction on the skill, and you're going to then summon them closer to you and they're going to land up stop hitting the boss. But in this case, they do have cunning, so they are still going to focus on the boss regardless of where you put them, as long as it is within range of the attacks. So if you have cunning on a minion, it is going to be very, very strong. It does mean that they are going to land up focusing on elite enemies and the Lords of the Voids. So as long as the Lords are in range of the minion, they will focus on that enemy, on the elite or the Lord. So you do want to make sure that if you're using summons, that they at least have cunning. Otherwise you really got to focus on the cooldown reduction and the how often you're spawning them and so on and so forth, at least for statics or for the plague rats. When it comes to the putrid hands, the lower the cooldown, it's actually better because you're going to be healing them more often, and all the cast frequency you get again is going to affect the actual unit themselves. And because they are a stacking poison damage kind of a skill, so they deal damage based on the amount of stacks of poison on the enemies, you actually want them to be hitting as often as possible. So depending on the type of the minion, you want to look at different stats. Totems work much better with multicast. They are sort of like beams, where the cast frequency and multicast are interchangeable, whereas something like the poison hounds work very well with cast frequency, but obviously multicast chance is going to work fantastically on them as well. But static totems, you need to focus more on the multicast chance because you don't necessarily want them to be summoned as often as possible for damage output reasons. But that's all talking about like a 0.2 second cooldown. It can end up hurting you more than helping you. And again, that's for the explosions. So the plague rats and the bunnies, they are the only two minions that do that. You don't want them to summon too quickly because they will explode at your feet, and therefore you're going to do no damage with them to the surrounding area. Unless you get screen-wide AoE, then it doesn't matter. So by Overlord 11, 12, if you do get that far, it shouldn't really matter because you should have that area of effect to increase your range and therefore make it more powerful. So as long as you keep getting those AoE upgrades, you should be good. Also, movement speed's very good for them because as soon as they spawn, they can run as quickly as possible to the enemies. So that's very good on Plague Rats, very good on Putrid Hounds. Obviously kind of pointless on your summon static summons because, well, they don't move anywhere, so there's no need for movement speed on them. Now, last thing to speak about is buffs. Some buffs are going to work on your minions. The only time a buff works on your minion is when the buff itself says temporarily increases movement speed and cast frequency, so this is for Bloodlust, of both you and nearby allies. So what that means is it's going to affect us as well as everything that is a helpful unit. So in this case, all of our summons, and therefore gaining increased area of effect is going to be very good, because as soon as you move out of range of your minions, you still want Bloodlust to affect them, you still want Arcane Power to affect them, and things like Might, as well as the lightning surge will affect your minions as well. Some buffs like a glacial, what was it called again? I haven't used it forever, but the Dark Knights one, where you're slow, the The stacks of slow increases your damage. Those buffs do not affect your minions at all. Even though it is temporarily increasing your character's damage, that damage increase does not change the damage of your minions at all. They do not gain it. It is a bonus buff, so they do not gain access to the increase to that either. So that's all the information I have. If you have any questions, you can ask them down in the comments section. Maybe there's something I missed, maybe there's something I didn't miss. But if I missed something and you want to ask about it, please make sure to ask me down in the comment sections. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And yeah, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. And always remember, keep safe, survivors. Until next time, cheers.